Yakuza is a franchise with no shortage of side activities. Every single game has something for you to do on the side as you play through the story when you're given free control. Of course, this only became more true as the games went on. So with the original Yakuza 1 and 2, for example, while you did have a bunch of mini-games you could engage in, the bulk of the side activities in those games were the side quests. Yakuza 1 had 79 sub-stories, while 2 had a whopping 120. Most of Yakuza 1's minigames consisted of different forms of gambling, and then there was the batting center and the UFO catcher. Yakuza 2 added a few things like golfing, a new arcade game, and then there's a hostess managing gig and a host club gig where both of those tread the line of being side quests rather than minigames. Yakuza 3 upped the amount of activities even more. It was with this game that we had the debut of the fan favorite karaoke, fishing, bowling, pool, and so on. So looking back, it sort of feels like it's with Yakuza 3 that minigames, specifically as a major aspect of these games, really shone through, and it only gets better and better from there. In fact, sometimes people joke about certain games having a little too much side content. Wink wink. But all that aside, with all the options we have, there is bound to be some that are just more fun than others. The ones I'll be covering today try to mix my personal opinion with what I feel I've seen the majority think. So that means maybe my idea of the majority may be wrong, which you absolutely should feel free to go ahead and comment something like, "No, Devil Leon 7, you're wrong, I actually love this one." With that said, let's take a look at our first one. Fishing. In Yakuza 3 and 4 specifically. Fishing in Yakuza 3 and 4 is almost identical. If you try to do at least most of the sub-stories in Yakuza 3, I feel like you understand exactly why this is here. That, or you tried to go for completion. Though honestly, even without that, going for a casual run of fishing isn't very welcoming at first. You're given the controls and what each button does, but this is still a minigame that takes quite a bit of getting used to. This minigame is really all about finding the perfect balance of when to do what, and also being quick enough to respond to whenever the fish takes the bait. But sometimes it feels like no matter how much you think you're doing it right, you're not really reeling the catch any closer. Some of the good catches will really give you a run for your money as well, or so you'd think, because you just end up catching a goddamn barrel for all that effort you just put in. There are a few things you could do to try and increase your chances of getting the fish you want, like using the proper bait that is more likely to attract a certain kind of fish, or to throw the hook at a certain range, but it's still no guarantee that you won't get something that you don't want. One of the infamous things you might have seen people have trouble with is catching a tuna in Yakuza 3 for a side quest. You have the option to either do that or pay for the tuna, if I remember correctly. The tuna can be a pretty slippery catch, and I think seeing this might speak for itself. Fishing from Yakuza 5 onwards became much simpler, where it focused much more on patience and timing your presses to catch something. The disco. You may or may not be surprised to see this, because you might know that I absolutely love this minigame. It remains one of my personal top favorites because it's super engaging and you get some catchy songs and groovy animations to go with it. Having said that though, the amount of people I've seen having trouble with this one, particularly for the Media King competition, is unreal. And it's 100% understandable because I had the same problem with the same bit. Whenever I'd be streaming Yakuza 0 and I'm at the disco, people ask me how I managed to hold my own because they found it to be pretty difficult. And I always say the same little story and how I was in their same position. I got to the bit in the real estate side story where the Media King challenges you to a disco song, and I would lose again, and again, and again, and again. But I kept trying because I was determined to win this one. 'Cause I mean, losing 10% of your share in that area kinda sucks. And I guess sometime after that, it just became so much fun that I found myself going back whenever I have the chance while I'm playing the game. What really makes the difference with disco is how many steps you take before you press a button. That adds a higher bonus to the score you get from that press. But taking too many steps makes you liable to slipping and bumping into the wall you see within the UI of the minigame, which slows you down a lot. So you really want to be careful with how many steps you take. Another notorious aspect of the disco is the sub-stories related to them, particularly the last ones where you go against Ogita, the same dude who is Haruka's instructor in Yakuza 5, and then Isobe, a lady who's really crazy about doing one move with her fan and somehow got the title of the disco goddess. Unfortunately, her monotone fan move also rubs off on female acquaintances that you invite over to dance. Seriously, look at the comment section of the Isobe video that I have up. I think everything that's being said there speaks for itself. Honestly, sometimes I wish I can just disable the fan animations because I do one song, and the only special animation I get is the dumb fan one. Oh yeah, I can't remember too well at this point of time, but I may have been offered money to beat the Isobe sub-story for somebody a long time ago. Hostess clubs. Okay, this is one activity that I don't really have a good grasp of the general opinion of, but personally, I'm not really that big of a fan. On the surface, it's a chill activity where you can just chat with the hostess and share a drink or a snack while you do so. But underneath all of that is an activity that can punish you for picking seemingly safe dialogue options. You never really know what the hostess actually wants to hear because that is what is truly required of you. It's kind of like real life with certain people. I don't like it. If you're not using a guide, then you might as well be doing this blindfolded because it really feels like the right choice is the most random one sometimes. And of course, by the right choice, I mean the choice that actually gets you the hearts. If you're going for completion, or if there are sub-stories locked behind hostess clubs, then that's even more of an incentive to just use a guide rather than risk losing points with a hostess. Basically making you come back for another visit to try and ensure the points stay at maximum. If only real life had guides for talking to people, am I right? The Clinic. This is a minigame in Hokuto ga Gotoku, or Fist of the North Star Lost Paradise. And yes, I don't care what you say, this is still an RGG game, it's still... listen, don't argue with me about that. Much like the disco, this is a top personal favorite RGG activity of mine. I love it so much. The reasons that put it on this list really aren't that different, though this one is arguably more intense than disco, funnily enough. I'm going to assume a lot of you haven't played this game, so let me put some context. Hokuto ga Gotoku, or Fist of the North Star Lost Paradise, is a collaboration title between Hokuto no Ken's license holders and RGG Studio. RGG Studio made their own take of a Hokuto no Ken game that is fused with their Yakuza DNA, creating a very interesting game. Much like Yakuza, this also has side activities, sub-stories, and the like. One of the side activities is this clinic. You get to heal people at the speed of light while rhythmically pressing buttons to match the beat of the song. There's about 10 different songs and they're all remixes of classical songs like Ode to Joy, Orpheus in the Underworld, or Symphony No. 9. The first song starts slow, and the further you progress, the faster the songs get. Here's a bit of footage of how crazy the last song can get. Hostess Maker, the Yakuza 3 and 4 one specifically. I think I met only a single person or two that told me that they don't mind this one. I guess you could just throw in OG Yakuza 2's Hostess Manager sub-story as well, but I feel like I can't be too harsh on that game since it's only the second one. This to me is one of the most boring, tedious, monotonous things that have ever come out of these games. If you're unfamiliar, Yakuza 3 and 4 both have side quests where you could recruit hostesses to specific clubs and train them to be better. I don't think it's inaccurate to say that they just feel like super early prototypes of the Yakuza 0 cabaret management. I mean, it kinda is. Same goes for the Yakuza 2 side quest. You're just walking around, waiting for time to pass, gauging customers' opinions of what they want to see in a hostess, and then you try and implement those qualities in them. It's like a fetch quest, but like 10 times more boring. Like, the gameplay loop is very, very monotone. Training a hostess can increase her stress, so you want to make sure she gets enough of a break so she doesn't snap or skip work or something. But what makes this frustrating is that the things you can do to train a hostess aren't guaranteed to work. Not even the relax option, it's complete RNG. I kinda get why they did this. They probably wanted to add this sort of trial and error feel to the minigame that basically guarantees that you'd come back and try again and again till you get lucky enough to succeed in what you want to do. But I think all it does here is just add to the frustration. The gameplay of this really isn't the most engaging thing out there, and having a random aspect to even just wanting to de-stress a hostess doesn't help either. Like, I don't know, give us quick time events or something that could make it so we can guarantee that she would succeed in at least unwinding. Not that that would really make this whole thing much more thrilling. It kind of goes without saying, but you also have to scout the girls yourself. And I guess compared to Yakuza 3, Yakuza 4 did add some special scenes like this one to make things a bit more interesting, so that's cool, I guess. Also, one more annoying thing is when customers want a specific look for the hostess, which ranges, you know, from cute, refined, flashy, and gorgeous. That in itself isn't the issue. But it becomes one when you realize that you don't really have much to tell you which outfit or accessory increases which trait exactly, unless you have a guide on hand. Catfights. I'll be completely honest with you. I recorded footage of this minigame already, it's just sitting there waiting to be used. But just to be extra safe and to avoid YouTube's bullshit of age restricting or demonetization at the tiniest thing, I'm just gonna show footage of literally anything else. I absolutely despise this minigame with every fiber of my being. With the introduction to it, they were expecting you to be like, oh, sexy ladies duking it out, fun times ahead. But it's anything but. This is one of the most RNG heavy side activities in the whole franchise. So that means when you get to the real estate side story and you get to the point where you're competing with the gambling king in a match here, there's like no skill involved. Toss a coin and hope you beat him. And again, because of the RNG factor, it might take several tries to do so. So if you didn't save beforehand, then it's GG. Even putting aside the real estate story, this whole thing as a money farming source sucks ass. There's plenty of other better ways for you to earn money. You have the real estate thing itself, you have Majima's cabaret management, you have the Mr. Shakedown exploit, which is probably the best way to get money. I feel like if you design something in a game as a way for you to earn money, then you want to sort of balance it to where it's not only somewhat enjoyable, but also something that doesn't force you to rely on luck. Like, think of how much cooler it would have been if they actually let you control one of these fighters. Just that alone would dramatically improve this minigame for me, and I'm sure for a lot of other people as well. It's really ironic for me because, again, money aside, one of the main attractions of this is for you to probably find this whole spectacle hot and inviting. The cheap animations and reused animations from other games' boss fights just makes this really lukewarm and funny, if anything. Maybe the point of it is to sort of get a laugh out of you, and I'm being a hard ass about it, but it sure as hell is not my idea of fun. This minigame makes Mahjong look like Karaoke 2.0 by comparison, and I say that because karaoke is probably my top favorite side thing to do in these games. So that says something about how much I dislike catfights. Now maybe you're wondering about Mess King and Kiwami, and to be honest, while I appreciate the effort to kind of make it different, I think it's still mediocre and it's not something I want to do by choice. Bonus entry, Shogi and Mahjong. Okay, let's be honest with ourselves here. The main reason no one likes these two is because no one really wants to bother learning them. And I understand it takes some time to really get the hang of them and know what you're doing. I wouldn't normally have included these two here, but I know the comments would be flooding if I had neither on the list. So this is more of a honorary mention than an actual listing, because I know you guys love Mahjong and Shogi so much. I've heard Shogi has a lot of similarities to chess, while Mahjong, I can say from personal experience, isn't unlike poker. It's all about learning what hands you can get and then apply that knowledge in the field. The difficulty probably comes from the fact that it feels like there's too many hands compared to poker, and I think extra rules as well. But yeah, as you guys probably know, Mahjong especially became something of a meme because of the extra self-studying you have to do to really get it. And that's all for this video. Did the list have any of what you consider to be the most frustrating side activities? If so, what were they? And if they weren't here, then what activity do you really not enjoy? I'm definitely reading the comments on this one because I want to get a better grasp at what people think when it comes to this topic. You know, kind of do a brain update on this whole thing. I hope you guys enjoyed this little video, and before we sign off, I just want to thank all the Hannya and Dragon members for their continuous support to the channel. You guys really go above and beyond to show your love, and it really does mean the world to me, so thank you. With that said, you guys take care, stay safe, and stay healthy. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye now. Alright, listen, I'll be super quick about this. Do you want to get your hands on alternatives of soda that are gaming-oriented and are healthy, sugar-free, and like 0 calories in that thing? Or maybe some nice instant noodles, or even gaming tea? Check out Gamer Subs in the link below, get yourself something nice. You'd be supporting me while you're at it. Use code DEVILLEON7 for 10% off. That's all for this video, and thank you again so much for watching. Peace.